3-inch teeth. That's not a description of Generalissimo, though it does apply. My producer extraordinaire has totally failed here. CJ Box has a brand new book out, 3-inch teeth. And CJ joins me now. CJ, welcome. I don't know when we're having lunch, whether it's today or Wednesday. You tell me, but when is it, CJ?
Wednesday. I'm coming to Orange County.
That's I looked at your calendar of book signings, and my producer was all over me about getting a reservation day. I said, I think he's coming Wednesday because I think he's opening up in Arizona with his book signings. Am I not correct?
That is correct. That's exactly correct.
You know, if I had a producer, not only would I really have this together, but I would know when we were having lunch. But CJ, not only is he a bad producer, he totally failed on Thursday because I had to fly to Nashville and I had the CJ Box reader's copy of 3-inch teeth ready to go. And he did not remind me to take it with me, so I had to read as much as I could. This is the first time you've appeared on this show, and I've not read the full book. First time. And it's all Dwayne's fault.
Oh, well, geez. I don't know what to say about him, although he did a good job on Friday. I do have to, let you know, admit that. It was darn good.
Well, that's only because he had botched telling me to take 3-inch nails with me, and he had the wrong day for lunch. And I'm just telling you, if I had a producer, this show would rock. Let me bring up at the beginning. I'm very flattered. This is on page 7. All right, this is on page 7. It's a description of fly fishing. When the line straightened out suddenly, he strip set the hook by jerking back on the line and raising his rod tip. A fish had taken it. It felt big. He reveled in the electric connection, but he gacked it by pulling too hard, and the line went slack. He figured the trout had either thrown the hook or wrapped the line around the submerged branch or rock, but when he reeled it in, he saw the fly was gone and the end of the tipper was curled up like a pig's tail. That meant he'd likely tied a poor knot and that a big trout was streaking down the river with a fly hanging out of its mouth. You know, when I sent you a description of how I fly fish the Madison, I didn't know you'd be using it, CJ. I'm flattered.
I think the description you sent me was of catching the single white fish that you caught on the Madison.
It's actually about hooking the guide. That's what... So we start with fly fishing, and I want people to know we're going to talk about corner rights, corner crossing. We're going to talk about Judge Hewitt is back, by the way. He's back early, too. I like that. And then we're going to talk about something I remember very well. This is a book about grizzlies, and it's a book about a lot of different things. But do you remember the 1967 attacks, which led to the May 1969 Sports Illustrated 3-part series?
I do not. Remember that.
You're too young. It came out in 1969. It was about the grizzly attacks in Yellowstone. 3-parter and essay. I read every word and I decided those bears are not my friends. And you get this book going fast, proving that. Have you ever come across a grizzly out there?
I have. I've had a couple of what the wildlife official call close encounters. That doesn't mean I was ever attacked, but I did come close to a grizzly bear once while fly fishing in Yellowstone Park. It was upstream from me. And I retreated pretty fast when I realized it was there. And then that night, we were staying in a little wilderness cabin. And the next morning, there were big muddy paw prints on the front door. It tried to get in, but I've never come face to face with a grizzly or had to decide what to do.
Now, I don't know that it was a grizzly, but when I was up at the Wild Adventure doing my fly fishing or my pretend fly fishing with Bill Lobdell, we had a bear crash into the cabin twice, maybe 3 times.
Why was that?
Because I had Pringles in the cabin. And I didn't think Pringles counted as food because it had a top on it, right?
It counts with the bear as food.
Well, and that was a big animal, whatever it was, trying to break down the cabin. So grizzlies are not to be messed with. And so 3-inch teeth is the best title you've ever had. I mean, I just think people start looking 3-inch teeth. And how big are grizzlies, CJ Box?
Females are 350 pounds. Males can get to over 400 pounds.
And they stand how tall when they get up?
7-8 feet.
And as we now know from reading 3-inch nails, they can swim, which I was unaware of. Fast.
Yes, they can swim. There have been some incidents in the last few years where grizzlies have swam after fishing boats So they can not only swim, but they're really fast. 45 miles an hour in a sprint.
3-inch nails. I'm not sure. It's going to bring back Night of the Grizzlies, which is the three-parter from SI in 1969. Where are you signing books today in Arizona, CJ?
I'm in Phoenix and Scottsdale. I'm going to be in Sun City West this morning, and then this evening in Scottsdale at Poison Pen Bookstore. Actually, it's going to be at a church because the crowds are too big for the store.
You better have that hand brace. We'll talk about that after the break, and we'll play it again tomorrow. CJ Box and I are going to continue talking after the end. The book is 3-Inch Teeth. I'm going to have lunch with him on Wednesday, no matter what Dwayne said. He was yelling at me that it was today. I knew it wasn't today, and he didn't tell me to take it with me. Don't go anywhere, CJ. I'm going to come right back and talk about 3-Inch Nails. You can go and order it. The audiobook is now available to download. It's available at bookstores everywhere. CJ Box has got another #1 bestseller on his hands for Joe Pickett, because it is a Joe Pickett novel. And I'll talk more with CJ after this. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Harley. I'm not sure I should thank Dwayne for bad information and not telling me to take the book with me, but I will. Thank you, Dwayne. Stand by, America. I'm back now with CJ Box, author of the brand new Joe Pickett novel, 3-Inch Teeth. 3-Inch Teeth is available at CJ Box Books. It's available at every Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's got its own website, but if you go to cjboxbooks.net, you will find out where CJ is signing these books, including soon in Orange County, when I am going to have lunch with him on Wednesday, despite what Dwayne says. And I said 3-Inch Nails. That's really wrong. 3-Inch Teeth is the name of the book. CJ, let me ask you, I only got the first part of this book done, so I can't possibly spoil it for people, so I can ask. First of all, I want people to know that bad guys are back. And we're in Rawlins again. And you're always letting people out of Rawlins. How come they have Wyoming Justice lets people out early?
Well, in this case, it's Dallas Cates.
I wasn't going to give the name. I wouldn't do any sport. Dallas Cates, everyone knows who he is if they're a Joe Pickett fan, so I wasn't going to tell them the name, but you're letting them know who's getting out early.
That's right. Well, he went to prison kind of a little bit on trumped-up charges that Joe Pickett was involved in. The law enforcement couldn't nail him for the things they knew he did. There wasn't evidence there, so they kind of set the table and got him off the street. And Joe was involved in that. He still feels kind of a little bit guilty about that. But when Dallas Cates is in prison, his entire family is killed. He loses his property. He loses his reputation. So when he comes out, he's got 6 names tattooed on his skin of the people he wants to go after for revenge, and Joe Pickett is one of them.
And he's also got an affiliation. You know your gang's in the Wyoming State Pen. He's got an affiliation with a prison gang, and he's a bad actor. We know that from previous things. So he's back. You know who else is back? Is Judge Hewitt, as I said yesterday on the program. But the Grizzly is back, and whenever you start in, there's fly fishing in the book. There are grizzlies in the book. And I don't know which way you're going to go with this, but I do know that I've never heard of a predator attack team before. Tell us about that, because I'm glad to know they exist, but they exist because that's why I don't go camping. They exist because I don't go camping. What does the predator attack team do, CJ?
Well, in Wyoming, it really exists, and it's made up of various game wardens and game and fish department officials. It's like a SWAT team for animals. Whenever there is a fatal or a near fatal encounter with grizzly bears or other kind of large carnivores, the predator attack team arms up and arrives on the scene. And in some cases, they're able to trap and relocate the grizzly bear. But in other cases, when it's too severe, they arrive to kill it. And I interviewed 2 members of the predator attack team in Wyoming, one of them being the supervisor of it. And he told me some hair-raising tales. In one case where 2 grizzly bears attacked the helicopter as it landed at the body of a elk hunting guide who the bears had killed. And sometimes, in most cases, grizzly bear behavior is you can predict it, you can avoid attacks, but in just a few cases, the bears act so irrationally, almost like homicidal bears, that the experts can't explain it.
I have known for 55 years of my 68 years that grizzly bears are not to be messed with. And this is before watching The Revenant. It is because of that SI article, which is very famous, Night of the Grizzlies, when there was a rogue grizzly in Yellowstone killing campers like a serial grizzly bear camper killer. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to go make sure I never go to Yellowstone in this book. Am I ever going to go to Yellowstone? Are they actually outside the park now from Yellowstone and rampaging?
Well, I wouldn't say rampaging, but they have extended their range beyond Yellowstone Park. And the last 3 fatalities were outside of Yellowstone Park.
How long did it take to research this book since grizzlies are at the... And we're going to come to BLM in a second, but how long?
A couple of years. I spoke to a member of the grizzly or the predator attack team a few years ago, interviewed him, and then while researching this book, was able to spend a lot of time with a guy who's considered, he's the large carnivore specialist for the state of Wyoming, first on the scene of every grizzly bear attack. And we went through some of the fatalities and step by step what they found. In some cases, the attacks were provoked, not intentionally. When somebody walks between a grizzly sow and her cubs, bad things can happen. But in a couple of cases, the attacks were literally unprovoked. The bears just came charging out of the trees and got guys before they could react.
Now, there are very few handguns that can stop a grizzly, correct?
There's a few. A 10-millimeter Glock, 454 Casull, a 44 Magnum. Those can all stop a grizzly bear.
Okay.
And bear spray can too, in most cases.
Oh, I'm not gonna trust myself to that. If I'm going out where the grizzlies are, I'm going to make sure somebody's with me, or I'm going to be in a cabin and no Pringles are going to be in there. So, CJ, let's also talk about. I think this is going to be about. There are always 3 plots in a Joe Pickett book. So we got the grizzly plot. We got, as we talked about yesterday, Dallas Cates is back, and I think we've got BLM versus property rights versus hunters angle. Am I right about that?
A little bit, yeah. It's addressed in this book. I don't want to get too obscure in the weeds, but it's a big issue in the Mountain West. Corner crossing suits are in effect. And in effect, there's public land in some areas in a checkerboard pattern that go across private land. And because GPSs are so accurate, hunters have learned that they can literally step from the corner of public land to the next corner of public land and basically enter large ranches that were considered private before.
That's actually, I was thinking about it last night after I read about this. I was unaware of the corner rights controversy, but we got 3 Pennsylvania hunters early on, and I hope they get eaten, by the way. They're from Pennsylvania. So if they're the ones who are going to get eaten by this rogue grizzly number 2, 3, and 4 victims, that's okay. Were they Steeler fans?
Oh, probably. You know how they are.
Well, they're grizzly bait. And so early on, we got grizzly bait from Pennsylvania. I like that part. We've got old bad guys showing up. We got Joe is older, and we got Sheridan involved. But tell me about the Judge Hewitt's role in this, because he's never showed up this early. He has to appoint somebody. So he had to appoint a sheriff, right?
Well, he's advocating for a new sheriff who happens to be his son-in-law. And yes, I can't wait till you read later.
I can't either.
Hugh Hewitt or Judge Hewitt figures in quite prominently later in the book. That's all.
Well, if I hadn't had, I will be ready by Wednesday lunch because I've got 2 days, and I won't have producer failure unless you try and schedule through Dwayne again. Has this not persuaded you, CJ?
You may not want to meet me for lunch after you read further, but let's hope so.
Yeah, I will be done by the time you show up. I just want you to know you can't rely on Dwayne to set up lunch or to remind me to take the book with me. I've been, I do television hits from this studio, and I've had 3-inch teeth behind me for the last month. I hope that helped pre-sales. Is it number 1 on the New York Times?
Well, we won't know for a week, but the pre-sales for this book are up 49% over last year.
Holy
So
smokes!
So many friends of ours in Wyoming sent us screenshots of you on Fox News with the book behind you. They took them off their TV set,
Yeah.
and it was great.
Yeah, I purposefully, when I'm reading a book or about to read a book, and that's why Dwayne's Failure was so bad, I had put it up there instead of where I normally put books to read before the author shows up. And Dwayne promised that take 3-inch teeth off of the primo spot for Fox and CNN. It was also on CNN. No one sent you the CNN shot, did they?
No, they didn't, as a matter of fact.
Your friends don't watch CNN, do they?
No, they do not.
No, they do not. Well, I'm not surprised, but the CNN crowd, I don't know how many pre-sales you get from them, but the Fox people said, Joe Pickett's back, and they ran out and they pre-ordered it. So where are you going on the book tour, CJ?
Starting in Phoenix and Scottsdale, and then to Dallas for a couple of big library events, then Orange County on Wednesday with the Orange County Library, and then off to St. Louis, Denver, and then I'm missing spots. And then I'll do a few events in Wyoming, and then back to the Tucson Book Festival in
all of CJ's signing appearances are over at cjbox.net. CJBox. Is it cjboxbooks.net or cjbox.net?
cjbox.net.
cjbox.net. It's got a list of events and it's got a calendar, and you want to find out where he's going, go there. So, CJ, tell me about the TV show, where it is, whether we've got a third season coming as well, and what they're doing in terms of how they're doing the book order.
Sure. Joe Pickett ran 2 seasons, 1 season on Charter Spectrum, a special channel, and then 2 seasons on Paramount Plus. Right now, it's likely not to come back. The producers are trying to find a new streaming service for it. It's complicated. I won't go into all the things, but because it was commissioned by Charter Spectrum, Paramount Plus didn't have a lot of skin in the game. And even though it was pretty well rated, they didn't own it.
It was.
It was their third, what we heard is their third highest rated show, but they didn't own it, and they wanted to do their own thing. So when their agreement ran out with Charter, they decided not to renew it, which
that's going to make a lot of people unhappy.
We thought they did a good job, and I think it did well, so we hope it lands somewhere else, but at this point, I can't announce anything.
Superb production values, good storytelling, fidelity to the overarching arc of the story of Joe Pickett and his family. It made for great seasons 1 and 2, and there's season 3 coming. But there's a lot of time. Whenever people can make money, a streaming platform will step up. I guess it's Charters to sell.
I don't even understand how it all works. There need to be some kind of agreement with Charter for it to move, and Charter is no longer doing original programming, so I don't know how that works. You
keep writing books and let your agent figure that out, CJ.
That's right.
Tell me, what do you when you do this over years, do you want an X% increase year over year for a new book?
I never have a real strategy towards this. Of course, I want luckily, at this point, every book has outsold the last for 24 years. And
that's remarkable.
This one's already poised to do that. So there will be a point, there just has to be, where the sales kind of top out or level out. But so far, so good. And, I'm just always grateful that that's happened.
I actually don't think that's, eventually, because you're aging Joe, he's got to die at some point. But he's getting older every day. What's the mandatory retirement age for a Wyoming game warden?
Well, it's not mandatory, but it's 65, and Joe Pickett is 51 in this book. So, he can keep going for a while.
Yeah, we got 16 or so a year. He can retire and then unretire. Danny Silva's done that with Gabriel Alon. Right, they keep bringing him back regardless, so they can keep going. So we got 17 years. How old are you, CJ?
I'm 65.
I didn't know that. You look like you're 10 years younger than I am. Well, then you can write books till you're 80. We can get 15 years out of you. Go back to work. Are you slowing down, or are you still doing 2 a year?
No, I've slowed down to I'm just doing 1 a year. But I got plans to do an additional one, maybe not a Joe Pickett book, but another book in the next year that I need to get started once the next Joe Pickett book is done. But no, that book and a half year pace was a little bit too much.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. Don't kill yourself. That's enjoy life. You are one of the country's, if not the country's, leading seller of books. Joe Pickett, how many did you sell last time around?
I don't know the actual number. All I know is, increases. The last book was up. It was a number one bestseller, both in a hardcover and ebook for 5 weeks. But I never, you don't get total number of books. Maybe somebody does, but I've never heard anybody say, that last one sold 168,000 copies. I don't know what.
Oh, yeah, I think you're way into the 6 figures, but I went looking in Nashville and in LAX, and they really do. The laydown date is the laydown date. They didn't put it out in the airports. I'm sure it's out today in the airports because it's out today. It drops today. And people are going to grab it because Joe Pickett's got a fan club. Now, I got to ask you about book signings. What is the strangest book signing question you've ever gotten?
Oh, it wasn't a question. It was a comment once. A woman, actually, I was signing in Yellowstone Park. Well, you'll never go, Hugh.
I flew over it. I've seen it.
A woman standing in line glaring at me, and when she finally got to that table, she said, she knew my first wife, Judy, and then she called and then she cursed at me and stomped away. And I'd never had a first wife.
I was going to say, what?
Wife. And everybody in line looked at me like, what a jerk this guy must be. And my wife actually overheard her say this. So that was one of the weirdest ones.
How many years have you been married?
Soon to be 40 in just a couple months.
Yeah, you're just a couple of years behind me. And I got to tell you, that has never happened to me. What do you think that's about?
I think she mistook me for someone else. That's the only explanation I have. And I never saw her again, never got a chance to ask her, but never been cursed at like that.
No, that's out of the ordinary. And how many people do you expect to be in Orange County? Because you're going to come to Orange County on Wednesday. This will play on Tuesday. I want people to know where you're coming in Orange County, California. Where are you going to be?
I've got to look this up because it's a special place. It's a special deal.
I think it's
Orange
Laguna
County
Woods.
Library.
Orange County Library?
Yes, I'm looking that up right now.
Yeah, and the reason I'm doing this for the benefit of the audience is that I used to live in Orange County, California, and I used to do CJ in the afternoons, and Orange County got to love CJ. And I don't know that you've done a book signing out here in 10 years, have you?
It's been a long time. It's Laguna Hills Community Center.
I knew it was not a Laguna Hills Community Center. Okay, what time are you doing that?
The library is sponsoring it.
Okay, and so Laguna Hills Community Center, what time, CJ?
At 6:30.
Okay, well, we'll be done with lunch by then. So that'll be good.
Good.
Okay, if it's a 3-martini lunch, have you ever done a book signing after a 3-martini lunch?
I have not. I don't plan to.
Well, Dwayne does that. That's a Dwayne lunch. That's why he never gets to go out, and that's why he wasn't a very good prosecutor.
The day's wrong on when we're going to have lunch. Yeah.
Now you've glimpsed my life. I'm so glad someone has finally glimpsed my life. Dwayne has been yelling at me to get a reservation. He's been telling me Monday. He didn't tell me to take the book with me. You finally glimpsed my life. Let me ask you one last question about 3-inch teeth. What do we do with grizzlies outside of the park? What do you want people to do?
It's a conundrum. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of information in the book about how to avoid grizzly bears and what to do if in fact, a person runs into them. But the real fact is, in some cases, the attacks are so unprovoked and so vicious that there's almost nothing anybody can do, other than just, I guess, what you do, not go outside.
Well, not go outside.
To the woods. What's that?
I wish you would go look up Night of the Grizzlies and the SI article, because you are old enough actually to have read that. Did you read SI as a kid?
I did. I used to get it every week, but I think it was later on, much later on than that.
It's in 1969, the bear attacks were in 1967. Took the guy a while to write the SI articles, then it turned into a book about grizzlies. And I will never forget those 3 weeks. I couldn't wait to read the next one because it's just, and of course, authorities were befuddled. They had no idea that it was a serial killer grizzly. And is this a serial killer grizzly in 3-inch teeth?
Yes, it is, but that's part of the misdirection as well.
Yes
but
and no.
Yes, in fact.
Yes and no?
Yes and no.
Do we have a couple of grizzlies out there?
Yes and no.
Judge Hewitt's
Let's
got a
just
lot
say
of
there's
problems
a couple
here.
of different kind of predators out.
Yes.
So I'll put it that way.
Okay, no more spoilers. One last question. Who is the governor in this book?
Governor, I almost gave you a wrong answer because I'm working on the next one. It's the last year of the last governor, the bad governor.
Okay, so then our friend is coming back?
Yep, Governor Rulon is back in office in the next book.
Yeah, well, that's a spoiler. That's a spoiler. He wins the election. Oh, well, they'll forget by next year. CJ, I will see you at lunch on Wednesday. We will play this on Tuesday. If you want to see him in Phoenix, you're too late. He's gone. I don't know where he is on Tuesday. Where are you on Tuesday?
I'm in Dallas.
In Dallas on Tuesday, Orange County, California on Wednesday, and beyond that, look at cjbox.net, cjbox.net. The brand new book is 3-Inch Teeth, and I read the first part of it last night after I didn't take it to Nashville with me because of Dwayne, and I'm hooked. And I'm mad at the BLM already, but we'll talk about that later. CJ, thank you. See you on Wednesday, my friend.
Thank you so much, Hugh. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.